الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله، وبعد. هذه هي الحلقة العشرون وهي الحلقة الأخيرة لمادة اللغة الإنجليزية للمستوى الرابع في قسم الدعوة والاحتساب. والحلقة العشرون هي سوف تكون في كتاب Writing Activity Book page 72 وعنوان الحلقة Unit 10 Endangered Cultures. كما ترون في الكتاب page 72. The theme is endangered cultures. The pre-writing technique is using information from reading, organizing, outlining, and revising writing, concluding sentence, expressing future predictions with will and be going to, and editing, correcting verb forms. كما ترون في الشاشة Unit 10 Endangered Cultures. Pre-writing, using information from a reading. Before you write about certain topics, you need to read about them, so it's important to know how to use information from a reading. Okay, so information from the reading, so always remember this very important question here. So we have here a schedule or number one here, said on page 73, page 73. Read the information in these FAQs, frequently asked questions, about some endangered languages. As you read, think about whether or not these languages will survive in the future. So we have here different languages. So, for example, Karitana, and you have also another language, Scottish Gaelic, and you have Potawatomi, and also the other one called Mormi. So all these are different languages. We should study them one by one. So let's now have questions here on exercise page 74. We have exercise page 74. Let's do the exercise. Work in a small group. Just do it yourself. Complete the chart below. Decide which language you think will survive and which won't. Use the information in the frequently asked questions to give details to support your opinion about the language. So we have the language, prediction, and supporting details. The language, Karitania, and prediction, you think it will survive or won't survive, and give supporting details. So let's do one by one. Now let's start with number one, Karitania. So you think it will survive or won't survive. If we read the language here, they know Karitania only, how many people speak the language? Only 185 people speak the language, so which is very few, very small number. So, and also, they can't use it in other places. They use it with themselves. And also, people mostly speak Portuguese, which is another language. So I think for Karitania, they want prediction, I think won't survive. This language won't survive because only 185 people speak the language, and it can't use it in other places. And also people learn another language, which is Portuguese, so which means that by the time this language will not survive, this language will disappear. So this is for the first language. For second language, which is Scottish Gaelic, this is page 74. If you just go back to your book and check the language for Scottish, they are around 70,000 people speak this language, and also children learn this language. Also their children learn this language, and also this language is spoken in many places. So since it's spoken in many places, and the children learn this language, and more than or around 70,000 people speak the language, I think this language will survive. So now you think of the other languages, which are Potawatomi and Mori. So you think of them, you might say it's won't survive or will survive. If you say it will survive, so that means you give reasons, support your answer with details. If you say won't survive, you give reasons and supporting details. And also for Mori, also you should choose whether it will survive or will not survive, and also give reasons or supporting details to support your answer. So now we have the language, we have the prediction, and we have supporting details. So we have the language already there, and you choose the prediction, whether it will survive or will not. Of course, it depends on the supporting details. If they have good supporting details, it will survive. If they don't have good supporting details, it will not survive. So just please do number 4, Butao, Tunis, and Mori's language. Do it as homework. So you know, in Butao, to me, they have only 50 people speak the language. Only 50 people, 50 people only speak the language, and also children don't learn the language, and also most speakers are middle age or older, so no children learn the language. So of course, if you just pay attention to this one, you will notice that this language will not survive, and because you know they don't have good reasons, the supporting details are not enough for this language to survive. Last one, Mori, they I think around 50,000 people speak the language, and also it is taught in classes, in schools actually, and it is the official language of the country. So you can guess whether it will survive or won't. So as long as the language is taught in schools and a lot of people speak the language, it will survive for some time. So this is for this exercise. Please complete it as homework and try to learn how to do it in yourself. Try always to depend on yourself all the time. Now let's go to number 2, organizing. We have in the screen here, we have organizing, outlining. Making an outline can help you to organize your ideas before you write. Read the first part of an outline about Serbian, a language spoken in Germany. We have the outline here. So the outline, the Serbian language from Germany will survive. This is the main idea. Writer's prediction. Reason 1, many people speak Serbian. This is a good reason for writer's prediction. Supporting details that support reason 1. Children learn it at home. This is good, of course, good details. And children learn to read and write at school. So children learn the language at home and in school. So these are good supporting details which support the reason, which is many people speak Serbian. And the number is good, 60,000 speakers. This is a good number. So we have good supporting details here for this. We have one reason, we have the main idea, and then we have one reason, and then we have supporting details for this reason. So we can just go and do the next one, which is number 2. Read the second part of the outline. The second part of the outline here we have, read the second part of the outline. Complete B, reason 2 with a sentence from the box below. Choose the reason that is best supported by the details given. We have space, and then number 1, Serbian radio programs, books and magazines in Serbian. Number 3, people speak it in markets and at work. So these are supporting details. So what is the reason? We have 3 options here. Is it Serbian is an old language? Serbian is useful in everyday life? Most parents speak Serbian in their children. If you go and check the supporting details, he's talking about the radio programs, about magazines, they're using this language, and also people speak the language. So I think we choose the second one. So the reason number 2 is Serbian is useful in everyday life. So we choose Serbian is useful in everyday life, and the supporting details are number 1, 2, and 3. So if you say Serbian is useful in everyday life, of course radio programs is part of everyday life, magazines and books are part of everyday life, and people who speak the language in markets and at work, of course, part of everyday life. So this is the way of to do this exercise here. And now we go to page 76 now. Page 76, do exercise number 3 as homework, please. This is also another good exercise, very easy exercise. Choose 2 languages from the pre-writing section, page 72, 74, that you want to write about. 1 language that you think will survive and 1 that won't. Use the information from the chart on page 71 to 74 actually to write an outline of your paragraph. Include 2 reasons for your opinion about each language. So please do this one as a homework. Now let's go and to number 3, part number 3, revising. So revising, we have revising here. Writing a concluding sentence. A concluding sentence can restate the main idea of the topic sentence. It can also suggest a solution or expression or express an opinion. So it can give a suggestion or opinion. Read the paragraph, then look at the 3 possible concluding sentences below. Write R for restate the main idea, S makes a suggestion, or O states an opinion next to each. So we have 3 statements here. One of them is restatement, one of them is suggestion, and one of them is opinion. So we need to tell us which one is which. So which one is which? Which one is opinion? Which one is suggestion? And which one is restatement? Which one is restatement? So let's read one by one. Number 1. For these reasons, I believe that people will continue to speak the Serbian language. Number 2, in my opinion, the work to preserve the Serbian language is very important. Number 3, I think that the Serbian people should continue their successful work to preserve the language. So from the statements here, number 2, in my opinion, so this is an opinion. Number 2 is opinion. In my opinion, the work to preserve the Serbian language is very important. So we should choose O for number 2. Number 2, O, because this is an opinion. This is an opinion. Let's see number maybe last one. I think that the Serbian people should continue their successful work to preserve the language. So here the writer is giving us, he's saying should. So should is this a kind of advice or a kind of suggestion. So this is a kind of suggestion. Whenever somebody say you should come early, you should eat your lunch, you should drink water a lot, you should pay attention, study hard. So these are all advice or suggestion. So number 3 this is a suggestion. So suggestion, I think that the Serbian people should continue their successful work to preserve the language. So number 2 is opinion, number 3 is suggestion. So number 1 is what? This is restatement. So number 3 is statement. As you can see, the topic sentence of this paragraph is, I predict that Serbian, a language spoken in Germany, will survive. And here, for this reason, I believe that people will continue to speak the Serbian language. So the number 1 here is, restating, this restatement of the topic sentence. So number 1, this is a restatement of the topic sentence, because, restatement means that you give the same idea with different words. So restatement means giving the same words with different words, So this is for number 1. And number 2, of course, in my opinion, this is an opinion. And number 3, of course, this is advice or suggestion. So suggestion. And as I mentioned before, a restatement means to give the same idea of the topic sentence, but with different words. So this is the meaning of restatement. So number 1 is the restatement, because the author here is giving us the same idea, but with different words. So this is, of course, restatement. And number 2, opinion. Number 3 is the subject. So on page 78, if you look at the screen, expressing future predictions with will and be going to. We have this exercise. In your paragraph, you can use will and be going to make predictions about the future. Okay? So you can choose will or going to. So let's start with number 1. Start with number 1, please. I think this is also for you very easy exercise. Number 1, some schools teach Serbian. The children who attend these classes, what? Can we say will be bilingual? Will be bilingual. So we can see here, we can say in your paragraph, you can use will and be going to make predictions about the future. So these schools will be bilingual. So the children who attend these schools will be bilingual. Number 2, there are only 40 speakers of Hokkaido, Innu, a language in Japan. Most children children won't grow up speaking the language. Won't grow up, will not grow up, or won't grow up speaking the language. So number 3, linguists now make videotapes of fluent Potawatomi speakers. People are going to watch the videotapes and remember the language, or people will watch the videotapes and remember the language. Also for number 1, let's finish number 4 now. Wabamia, a language in Australia only has 10 or 12 fluent speakers. They are all over the age of 60. I think Wamabia won't survive. So won't survive. For number 5 also, linguists are trying to write down traditional stories from many cultures. This means people won't forget the stories and can tell them to their children and grandchildren. So this means people won't forget. Won't forget means will not forget. So won't forget means will not forget the stories and can tell them their children and grandchildren. For number 1 again, some schools teach Serbian. The children who attend these schools will be bilingual, or we can say the children who attend these schools are going to be bilingual. So this is exercise we express the future predictions. Sometimes we use will, and sometimes of course we use going to. Sometimes we use will and sometimes we use be going to. So this is the exercise here on page 78, and look at your first draft. Do you use will or be going to? Write about the future, underline all the places where you should use will or be going to. So always when you write something in this first draft, try to use will and be going to in your writing, in your sentences, in your paragraph. Writing and also for in the same page here in writing the second draft. Now you are ready to write your second draft. Look at your notes from the previous sections to help you revise. Write a concluding sentence for each of the paragraph and use will and be going to write about the future. So this is for this exercise. For this exercise, just do it yourself. Whenever we do the exercise here, just follow me, and when the exercise we don't do the exercise, do it yourself as a homework. Okay. Now let's go now to the last part. We have here page 79. Page 79, please. Page 79. We have editing. Correcting verb forms. Number 1, correct the verbs in each of the following sentences. This is exercise number 1. In the future, children space be bilingual. So we can say in the future, children will be bilingual, or children are going to be bilingual. So both are right. We can use will or are going to. So we have two options here. So both are right. Number 2, people going study the grammar. People, we can say people are going to study the grammar. So number 2, we can say people are going to study the grammar. So here, the question here, correct the verb in each of the following sentences. You just need to correct the verb here. So we say number 2, people are going to study the grammar. People are going to study the grammar. Number 3, children know stories of the culture. So we use the future tense here. We say children will know the stories of the culture, or children are going to know the stories of the culture. Okay, this is for number 3. Will know stories of the culture. Number 4, adults are watch videotapes to help them remember. We say adults are going to watch videotapes to help them to help them remember. So number 4, adults are going to watch videotapes to help them remember. So we use going to watch videotapes. Number 5, linguists are going what? We have something missing here. Number 5, linguists are going to study the language more. So linguists are going to study the language more. So this is for number 5. Linguists are going to study the language more. So please always try to do the same as we did now. So do the exercise, correct the exercise here, correct the forms. So you should now learn how to use will and going to and present progressive. Number 2, exercise number 2, look at your second draft. Are all the verb forms correct? Correct any verb form errors. You know, I told you before, for the first draft and second draft, don't care for the spelling or the verb forms, but now for the third or final draft, you have to pay attention to the form and to the correct forms, of course. Preparing, this is the way how to write, you know, of course, your final draft. So here we have preparing the final draft. Carefully edit your second draft. Use the checklist below as a guide. Then neatly write or type your paragraph with the corrections. So we have here final draft checklist on page 79 in your book, page 79. Always when you want to check your final draft, you have a list. You have a checklist. Always go and read the checklist and check the points that you went through, and if the points that which you didn't do, just go back and fix the problem. So here in this page here, you can see the final draft checklist. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 7 points here. So read them one by one. So number 1, do you have 2 paragraphs? You have two paragraphs, one for each language, of course. Since you have 2 languages, each language should have 1 paragraph. Question number 2, does each paragraph have a topic sentence that makes a prediction about whether the language will survive? Of course, the topic sentence should tell the reader whether that language is going to survive or not. The third question, you have to ask yourself, do you have 2 reasons for your opinion about each language? So each language, you should have at least 2 reasons for your opinion. If you say it's to survive, give 2 reasons. Question number 4, are there details from the frequent asked questions on the endangered language to support each reason? So you have to make sure this is you have enough details. And number 5, do you have a concluding sentence for each of the paragraphs? You should have topic sentence and concluding sentence for each paragraph. And remember, the concluding sentence can be paraphrase or restatement or suggestion or opinion. Question number 6, do you use will and be going to write about the future? If you write about the future, try to use will and be going to. And last question, did you check the verb form? Always check your verb form. Sometimes maybe something is missing. For example, like what we did in exercise number 1 in this page 79. Sometimes you can find the are missing or will or to or any other part. So try to check that the verb form is good. So if you say he will be a teacher, you have to, sometimes people don't use be, or he is going to study. So sometimes people forget to use to. So please check your form, the verb form, all the time. And this is the end of this exercise, and this is of course the end of the whole course. I advise and recommend everybody to study this book very carefully. I think this is one of the best books that you have. So try to study the books, study the exercises and the words, the grammar, and every part of the words, the book. If you have any question, we can meet in the next time. وهذا إن شاء الله هو آخر ما في آخر حلقة في هذا الكتاب. وكما ذكرت سابقا وتكرارا ودائما، الجميع اعتماد على أنفسهم أولا، وثانيا إذا الحصول أو المعرفة معنى كلمة لأول مرة، رجاء تشيك أو مراجعة القاموس الإنجليزي دائما. وإذا أشكل أو وجد أي مشكلة، يعني إن شاء الله الكتاب سهل وواضح جدا وخطوات سهلة إن شاء الله، كلا الكتابين واضحين. ويعني لو تقيد الطالب والطالبة بجميع التعليمات، جميع التمارين، وتبع جميع الحلقات، إن شاء الله سوف يكون المنهج سهل جدا، وعلى الطالب أن يتأكد من متابعة الكتاب بالترتيب. وإن شاء الله إذا كان في أسئلة غير ذلك إن شاء الله سوف في لقائنا إن شاء الله قبل الاختبارات سوف إن شاء الله يكون لقاء بيننا أونلاين على الإنترنت، وسوف يجيب على الأسئلة والاستفسارات بإذن الله. وهذا آخر ما في هذه الحلقة، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.